peers? We are live on Facebook. We are live on Blog Talk Radio. Thanks for joining us. I mean, again, I really am less interested in folks joining us as me putting out a public record of the information. The public has been warned about what's been going on. That's what I have dedicated my life to do. Not for anybody else's benefit. That's my personal choice about what I choose to spend my time doing. But we've been warning you about what's exactly happening right out in front of everybody's faces, not hidden in plain sight, but spotlighted in plain sight. So there's no hiding this anymore. This is right out in the open. Everything that we've been talking about for years and years is happening right now. The collapse of society. Now, society had already collapsed, and the government's response was to pretend everything was fine. You know, folks living in tents in every city by the tens of thousands. Everything's fine. This is the greatest economy ever. Oh, largest gap between the rich and the poor in my lifetime, which is, it's a pretty long time now. But that's all right. Don't worry about that. Everything's fine. Everything's dandy. Then they create this pandemic called the coronavirus. And they shut everything down, even though there's really no evidence that is warranted. It seems unwarranted, the response to this coronavirus. And the only substantive response is because they can't get the test kits right, allegedly. They don't know where it came from, allegedly. The only thing that they can get right and that they're pushing right on through are these massive increases to the Federal Reserve's balance sheet and corporate bailouts, jamming, trillions of dollars into the repo market and jamming trillions of dollars into the Fed's balance sheet, which is going to go straight into the you saw that. I mean, you saw that today. We've been talking about record volatility. We've been discussing with you record high repo overnight borrowing rates, which should be exactly in line with the Fed funds rate, but is 10 times higher earlier in the year. That shows you, hey, that's unprecedented. So we keep hearing all this stuff is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. That is unprecedented. This is unprecedented that they cancel all sporting events around the world. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented that they are shutting down borders, that they're putting entire nations on lockdown. It's unprecedented. So, as we stated last week, this is all one needs to know to really follow what's going on. This is the pretext to bailing out the corporate interests that have over-levered themselves by thousands of percents. Everything's over-levered. Everything is overvalued. And then we see the result here. I mean, look at what's happening. Look at what's happening in the and I've got to get on the computer in case on in the Blog Talk studio, and Cliff, in case you're wondering what's taking you so long to get unmuted. I was having technical issues and of course running late as always. Where was I? All right. So everything. Okay, here we go. Everything is completely out of whack when it comes to the valuation of money. The valuation of money is well. Okay, I just want to address something that Michael Elliott said, and he ROFLMAO, unprecedented in our lifetime, yet this was done over Spanish flu. No, when we talk about unprecedented, we're talking about the fact that the financial system worldwide is almost another world away from what it was in 1918. And the unprecedented moves are unprecedented cutting of interest rates that we've seen, the unprecedented amount of increase in one day in the repo market, that's unprecedented, and the unprecedented highs and lows in the stock market, in the New York Stock Exchange. Hey, if you got different information, Michael Elliott, you can provide it. But my information, what the made up computers that these guys, read out that they call the New York Stock Exchange and the Shanghai Composite and the FTSE, they're telling me that there are unprecedented moves. They're saying that this is unprecedented, that this is a record high increase on the Dow Jones for one day in its history, and then the next day is a record low. And then a top 3 to 5 record high, followed by a top 3 to 5 record low. That's unprecedented. It's never happened. Let's go. All fiat since beginning of time failed, and so did the king's economy collapse during the plague like. Okay, whatever. Enough with you, Michael Elliott. I don't know what any of that means. Take the caps lock off. I'm attempting to.
I would say Mark Twain sort of summarized the hairs. This guy is splitting pretty well. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So sure, there's going to be similarities between any sort of time in history where there's an alleged pandemic, but what we're saying is unprecedented is this halting of society in what seems to be even more bizarre and unprecedented, and maybe this sort of, in general, this sort of behavior is an unprecedented, that it's heavy-handed, it's completely out of proportion with what's going on. When I see articles saying Newsom's declaring a state of emergency in San Francisco, or San Francisco is put under a state of emergency, and I'm in certain areas, I'm like, well, that seems ridiculous. Everything seems like relatively mundane and peaceful. And then there will be other areas where it's like, I can completely see declaring a state of emergency here, but it has nothing to do with coronavirus or COVID-19 or any pandemic. It has to do with income inequality sounds like a way to sugarcoat it. The complete extraction of wealth from the masses and the hoarding of wealth and the decaying of society. That I can see, like, in downtown San Francisco, yeah, that needs to be put under a state of emergency. The Presidio, not so much. I mean, except maybe that's where a lot of wealthy people are. But yeah, so this Michael dude, he's trying to downplay the reaction. People can downplay what the actual coronavirus is all day, because I mean, I don't think anyone really knows the true nature of the alleged problem.
Yeah, Cliff, let me get in there. Let me get in there. Yeah, it's pointless to, it seems like a lot of this stuff is fake. I mean, either the numbers are fake, but I mean, it starts getting to the point where um, uh, one is I mean, just lost when it comes to what is going on as far as the general public. But what's actually happening, that's what I'm discussing. What's actually happening is something that we have been predicting, besides the fact that they just made something up. We showed you last week, hey, the Green Swan book written at the beginning of this COVID-19 outbreak, of this coronavirus, is the playbook that you're seeing happen right now. No, there's no outliers. No countries are saying like, hey, yeah, everybody else is canceling their sporting events and concerts, but we won't. Nobody, all the countries are doing that. Nobody's saying that's a bad idea. So it's all coordinated among the central banks that the Bank for International Settlements controls and the Financial Stability Board controls. So what's happening everywhere? Slashing interest rates and massive liquidity, massive increases in central bank balance sheet, massive just helicopter money. Like, go back and find out what these terms are, when they've done it in the past. I'm just telling you what's happening. So that's what's going on. That is real. Them shutting down things. So Cliff and I were talking about something that I really haven't heard anybody discuss. And when we're discussing these things, nobody else is discussing this like we are. So we're just delving into what we told you last week, which is really all you need to know. So they're banning everywhere in the United States gatherings of more than 100 people or 250 people. So this is fitting in with this gun grab that everyone, or that a certain faction of the politically active population of America was obsessed with, and we were as well, this gun grab agenda in Virginia. So they're doing things like, hey, gatherings of this many people with guns, you can't do it, and blah blah blah. Now they're taking out the whole with guns thing, and they're just saying, hey, you can't gather with more than 100 people. Everything, all the events, St. Patrick's Day events, are canceled. From Ireland to Richmond, Virginia, to everywhere in the United States, everywhere in the UK, they're canceled. So that's fine. Who cares? Who cares that they're canceled? But I can tell you, if somebody wished to protest any aspect of this coronavirus, or how the government is handling this coronavirus, you can't, because they've declared states of emergency, and you can't gather with more than 150 people. You can't even gather with more than 100 people in most places. So when they start...
I will say that aspect of it. Go ahead, finish.
Well, I mean, just pointing out that this is what is shutting down absolute massive demonstrations and actions against the government in Iran, in France, in Hong Kong. And if anyone's not ready to demonstrate against the government after basically society has just been shut down for what I see to be no good reason, and then we all realize that all at once, and then go like, oh, what happens if we gather to demonstrate? We have lost the freedom of assembly. Let me repeat that again. We have lost the freedom to assemble. So, what else do you need to know? All these industries are getting bailed out. Clifford, remember how long we've been talking, especially this year, about the American oil industry and their loans are coming due in 2020, and with the the oil prices per barrel as low as they are, it seems like it's going to be impossible for all the American oil industry. And actually, we'll talk about Saudi Aramco. We can talk about Russia. We can talk about OPEC plus Russia. But it was worse with American oil companies. And we've been saying, like, look, they just can't do it. They just can't make it with the oil prices like they are right now. They just can't do it. Something's got to give. They're going to go under. And what do we have now? We have, well, it's like they're not worried because they say, well, hey, we'll just shut everything down. We'll just shut everything down and bail out all the corporations, the entire oil industry and all the other corporations. And we'll start giving them 0% loans. And we'll start giving them as many 0% loans as we wish. So this is going to happen every time. Every time they get to a point where the math doesn't work, they're just going to start shooting liquidity. And when I say they, the central banks of the world is what I mean. So I'm finally, and I'm not good at these kind of comparisons I'm about to make, but when one goes to the grocery store and say, like, you got $100 and you buy $250 worth of groceries, the bank doesn't say to you, like, oh, Chris, you bought $100 worth of grocery or $250 worth of groceries up to the counter, but you only have $100. What are you gonna do? They're not gonna pump $1,000 into my account because I've overspent, because I've messed up. But that's exactly how it works for the corporations. The oil industry could not pay off its debts because the languishing price of a barrel of oil and the global slowdown, the massive global slowdown. There was no demand, so there was an oversupply. So what happens? Coronavirus. Oh, now you're bailed out. Bailed out, 0% loans, pumping liquidity into the market. There you go. Problem solved. Yeah, too bad it doesn't work like that for us, because every time they do that, it's not like, oh, it's just, hey, they get this privilege we don't get. No, the value of what we have goes down. Goes down. When it's simple supply and demand, when they're putting trillions of dollars on the balance sheet, the value of the commodity, which is the dollar, the Federal Reserve note, goes down, and that's happening worldwide. It's happening worldwide. 631 caller. Cliff, should we take a call?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean,
all right, let's see what's going on here with this caller. I mean, because every time it seems we take a caller, we got to say, like, hey, look, we rarely get good callers, and most of them turn out to be some sort of government trolls, or they come on, spewing obscenities, do personal attacks, and all that other stuff. So we'll see what this guy, this person has to say. So hopefully it's a good call. So I wish to preface that, because I'm not going to be overly kind. I have no intention. We're just telling you what's going on. And anybody else's opinion about just about anything, it's meaningless to me. It's meaningless. It usually just serves to confuse the matter. Hey, but that being said, I've learned things from smarter people than myself. Uh, uh, that's not a normal thing. Kyle William, the call-in number is 646-668-2151. So that number again, 646-668-2151. And we do have a caller on the line, so without further ado, and I'll give that number out again, 646-668-2151. And we'll take this 631 caller. Caller, what's your name and where you're calling from? You're live on the Militia Intelligence Report.
What's going on, Chris? It's Matt from New York.
Oh, greetings, Matt. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I was, at the grocery store earlier, and everyone is, of course, stocking up on everything, and everyone's panicking, and the stock market is going down. I really just think it's all just fear-mongering so these big guys can buy more, and then eventually, if this blows over, they're going to come out making even more trillions and have even more control. I mean, I just basically want to say I agree with you on that, and it just seems like everything that's put out there by the system is just absolute crap, and like you always say, they're waging war on us. I'm a young guy, so I've never called this any radio show before, but I just wanted to say that. That's basically it.
Hey, that's a good call. I mean, that's really all we need to know. Thanks, Matt, from New York. I mean, that's really all we need to know is we're losing our privileges and freedom to go out. I mean, they put everything on lockdown. Hey, Jersey City says they're closing the bars at 10 p.m. That's what you call a curfew. I mean, that's for parents to give children, not for free adults to have.
And again, I want to reiterate why the real cause of this, because I'm looking outside, and there's some dude who literally tries to steal some guy's phone, but he's incompetent and trips over, and so the guy just gets his phone back. And then I see this guy walking around looking at cars to break into, and then I think he might have tried to pursue this old Asian lady who was was behind him in the yard, and so that you got low lives out on the street, which is nothing new. That's certainly not unprecedented, but I don't usually see that around this area of San Francisco. So it's getting worse. Everyone is desperate, and because the majority are immoral, they'll do anything. And I mean, again, so the issue is not even so much, oh, hey man, this guy's a piece of dirt. It's just the people who are like him to the nth degree have the most power in this society. And the fact that people, take it lying down is what I am having trouble comprehending.
Well, I give them credit for what they do, and we do have another caller. I'll get to you in just a second, 907. So please be patient. I just wish to make this point. This happened so suddenly. All of these, unprecedented moves from them telling us, and this is what always happens. Everything's great, everything's fine, nothing to see here, everything's good, greatest economy of all time. We know better because we've been seeing better. I mean, we know enough to be able to recognize when the repo rates, shoot to a record high, what that means. It means lack of liquidity in the market. And when the inversion rates are record high and point to definite recession, then we know that when they said 3 weeks ago, oh, there's only a 15% of recession. And now they're saying, hey, thanks for the call, Matt. Now they're saying 85% chance of recession. Okay, well, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever it was recently, recently they said no chance. Now they're saying 80% chance. When is it going to be 100% chance? We're already in recession. So it's all this kind of confusing language that they put out there to folks, and yeah, it's paralyzing to individuals. Um, yeah, I mean that's what they do. They take away our exactly right, Cliff Fenwick. They take away all of our freedoms, and then they spy on us. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were doing that before 9/11. But 9/11 was the trigger for this continuity of operations and continuity of government that we've been talking about. That's what's going on. Let me take this caller, 907 caller. Hold on. Okay, greetings. 907 caller, you're on the air. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name's Nick. I'm calling from Kenai, Alaska. And so I got my brother and his friend that I stay with. They both work at a grocery store. Mm-hmm. And they've been saying that it's been getting pretty bad. But yesterday, they just announced that Alaska had gotten its first case. And people immediately went to the store. The store that they worked at broke their record for the best day, ever in sales.
Wow.
And they're out of everything. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there you go. Panic buying, panic selling. Yeah, this is, as we were saying earlier, this is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. And I did make the point earlier, and I'm going to go get a copy of the Militia Handbook that I should have grabbed before the show, that the only one I hear making any kind of sense is Donald Trump. As far as, and he only makes sense when he says this one thing, that the coronavirus has killed less people than the flu did last year. So I don't know what else there is to say about that, except for where is the motivation? What's that?
Yeah, but now he's declared a national emergency.
Of course. I'm not defending him in any sort of way. I'm just saying that this flies in the face. If less people are dying now than died during last flu season, why the national emergency now?
Yeah, someone was telling me that the numbers for H1N1 were, some estimated numbers were between 100,000 and 500,000 in the first year. And if you were to extrapolate the current recorded numbers or the current reported numbers for coronavirus, it wouldn't even come close to that right now at the rate it's going. But yet, all of society has to be shut down because of it, allegedly.
All of it. You don't have a choice in the matter. One doesn't have a choice. As I said, if one wished to demonstrate against the government in a crowd of 100 or more, I mean, I've been to demonstrations with hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, it seems so funny. The stuff that I was demonstrating against, where there were hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, I've been to more important demonstrations with 3 or 4 people. So, but in any event, they won't even let you gather in these small crowds. So how is that suspension? How are they justifying that? Especially now that we're seeing the government officials in China getting shouted down when they visit Wuhan province, and everybody's yelling fake. I don't know how to speak Chinese. I'll take their word that's what everybody's yelling. I've heard reporters reporting on it. I've seen video. I know they're all yelling the same words, and they're telling me that the words are fake. Well, I mean, I agree, Sarah Sampson Caldwell. It's kind of a joke, except for like everything's so deadly serious about it, where they just kind of, with this fake thing, can wipe away our most important God-given rights. The rights to assemble. The right to pursue property. I mean, sometimes the right even to, be out in public after a certain hour. I mean, I shouldn't even add the caveat after a certain hour. Any hour. Anyone has the freedom to be out on a public street. That's can't be a crime, no matter what. No matter what. And when it is, there is a major, major problem. So, I'm not going to diminish the seriousness of what is the overall umbrella action taken using the so-called coronavirus as a pretext. I mean, we haven't even gotten into like, what is the coronavirus? Clifford and I have been discussing this pretty heavily for the past week. So, I mean, all I can say is we got a lot to cover tonight, and we've been on for half an hour. We've gotten a couple of good calls, and we are, we're happy to hear from others. I mean, I think folks are getting serious now about seeing what's going on here and looking and seeing this coronavirus as the trigger for UN Agenda 21, continuity of government, continuity of operations, and a corporate bailout. And I would even go as far as to say this is a whole an entire economic reset. They're just resetting everything. So and it's nothing that's going on now that we have not covered. Going back many years too, they halted the stock market twice yesterday. We talked about the plunge protection team and the circuit breakers. We talked about them back in 2015 on international television and say like, well, hey, wait a second. What would happen if the circuit breakers didn't come on? Oh, it would go down to zero? It would go down to close to zero? So what are they basically doing? They're just stopping the natural system that they have set up, which is these algorithmic computer programs that control all the trading. And then if they don't get a result that they like, that everyone else, all the individual traders have to take a haircut on. They have to take their medicine along with their sugar when things are going well. But when they have to take their medicine and they have to pay the price and get a haircut, the individual trader doesn't go like, oops, hey, let's unplug the computer and reset everything. That happened twice yesterday. It's happened before. We never really got a good answer when we were going on international television and questioning, how is that fair? How is that relevant? How is anything mean anything if you can just stop in the middle of a trading day a downward turn and reset it? I mean, Cliff, it's just like, we can't move forward and talk about other things until we establish what that is. It's just pure manipulation. It's pure thumbs on the scale. Fraud. Yeah. Thumbs on the scale.
Fraud. Again, that's the sort of base point where everyone seems to be well, I shouldn't say everyone, where most either feign incompetence or are incompetent or are too traumatized to comprehend. Like, everything's based on fraud. So I don't take anything seriously until physical force becomes involved. That's why, like, I was looking at this dude trying to rob people because we're at that point where, hey, whatever pretext they're using, that doesn't really matter. Unless you see actual evidence in your day-to-day life that, hey, are people hacking up blood where you are? I know one person that might have been diagnosed with the coronavirus, and what that means is they have, specifically for them, they have pneumonia, and that hasn't stopped them from traveling. So what? Again, it's so ambiguous with every headline. 8 people now diagnosed with coronavirus and wherever. What does that mean? Pneumonia, SARS, what? But what's? Oh, we're setting up quarantines. We're calling in the National Guard. I know what that means. I know exactly what that means.
Exactly.
We have to close that. We have to suspend the Louisiana primary. Okay, I know what that means. We have to shut down one of the biggest money-making endeavors, professional sports. I know what that means.
Yeah, the NCAA basketball tournament. We talk a lot about gambling, and that gambling is what drives the outcome of rigged and fixed sporting events. What are all these gamblers gonna do? They don't have anything. There's no European football. There's no Major League Soccer. There's no hockey. There's no NBA basketball. They got nothing. I mean, I got more sports channels now than ever. Than ever. And like, it came at a bad time for me because there are times in my life where I used to just like to watch sports. That was it. That was my favorite thing to do, getting into and watching sports. Now it's more than ever. And they got I can tell you one thing. There's more daily betting shows on my cable network, Comcast, now than there used to be, for example, at this time of the year, college basketball games every day on TV. You might get one or two college basketball games a year back when I was a kid. And now it's every conference, every Division I team you can find on a television network, depending on where you are. You can get any sort of package. But now we're just watching these daily line, daily wager shows about how to bet on sports, which is really the only reason it exists, and it's right out in the open for everybody to see now. What are they talking about? They can't talk about anything. Everything is shut down. Concerts, if people I don't like sports, I like concerts, I like the theater. Can't go to Broadway. Can't go to your local theater. Movies, are the movie theaters closed down? I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't seem like that many folks would really want to go out and take a chance to see what's going on. Yeah. So, I mean, this is 100% unprecedented. It's unprecedented in my lifetime, and I don't know any other time that they could do this. They really didn't have something like continuity of operations back in the day. See if any of this stuff sounds familiar to what's going on now. I'm going to read from the Militia Handbook. See if any of this stuff sounds familiar. Da, 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 da. All right, I'm reading from the Militia Handbook. page 26. Modern warfare and suspension of rights is always fomented through a clandestine operation. Terrorist attacks, which I consider this a terrorist attack, this coronavirus, the monetary warfare, economic, psychological, germ warfare, biologic warfare on some levels. Terrorist attacks are carried out by the intelligence agencies acting on behalf of the Zionist shadow government. These attacks are blamed on uninvolved groups or individuals. Uninvolved groups basically just saying like, hey, you went out and went on a cruise, so now you have this thing we tell you you have, and we got to shut down the entire society. Okay? A government plan called Continuity of Operations was installed as a result of September 11th, 2000 of the Continuity of Operations was installed as a result of the September 11th, 2001 false flag attacks carried out against the American people by ethnic Synagogue of Satan members inside the U.S. and Israeli governments. The Continuity of Operations is a federal initiative directed by FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security. Continuity of Operations, as defined in the National Security Presidential Directive -51 / Homeland Security Presidential Directive -20, and the National Continuity Policy Implementation Plan, is an effort within individual executive departments and agencies to ensure that primary mission essential functions continue to be performed during a wide range of emergencies, including localized acts of nature, accidents, and technological or attack-related emergencies. So what just happened in the past few hours, Cliff? We just had a declaration of a state of emergency, right? And so martial law implementation, according to National Security Presidential Directive -51 / Homeland Security Presidential Directive -20. Continuity of operations. That's what's going on right now, isn't it? I mean, I would love for somebody to tell me I'm wrong about this. I would love to be wrong about this. Cliff, you there?
Yeah, I think that's why no one can say they had. Yeah. That's I was helping someone with the bag, so if you had called for me and I wasn't there, I was a little.
Yeah. Sorry.
Preoccupied, but yeah, no, I've been. I mean, again, that's why. I mean, some of the first comments I saw were, "Oh, is this guy crazy?" Like, they just have to attack and denigrate the messenger, because I mean, the message is just telling you what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't really know what else to say. Like,
all I can say is, hey, everybody who says I'm crazy, tell me how I'm crazy. I don't want to be crazy. I wish to be rational. But when there is very little evidence from a completely dishonorable group of institutions, and they are slashing all of the power and freedom away from the body of the people and transferring it directly to corporate and government military interests, what else can be said? Oh, that's just how the cookie crumbles? We got to bail them out first, and then we'll get to you maybe. Except for like...
I guess, Chris, I don't necessarily want to say play devil's advocate, but essentially to sort of, I guess, give an alternative, but to look at it from a slightly different perspective that, oh, well, I mean, but they're doing all this to protect from this pandemic, despite the fact it seems overblown, at least from my perspective. Interacting with not the simulation, it seems a little overblown. But say it's not. Maybe there's, so they're doing all this in order to benefit, or because it's just what has to be done because of the pandemic. But then you connect the other dots, like, okay, so then Israel's saying they're working on a vaccine. What else has Israel been working on? Oh, training Virginia SWAT and Virginia police on how to use lethal robotics. So it's like, but that's for your benefit. And so when you get, and then most people are not privy to that information. Everyone's heard about coronavirus, but very few have heard about Israeli defense ministers training American police and SWAT on lethal robotics. So, and this is where these are the people that are also creating the coronavirus vaccine, allegedly. So you can connect as many dots as you wish, but it's pretty much all one big dot.
Yes.
You pretty much just have to open your eyes. That's really all the connecting one must do.
Exactly, Cliff. I mean, one can connect the dots until the cows come home. Just keep connecting and you're not doing anything. You can talk about every single detail except for the most important details. We're having all of our freedoms taken away. We can't assemble in crowds of more than 100 right now. That is unprecedented. You know, they keep. So we've always been told that the American people have the power and authority to keep those in high places in check through the Second Amendment and through our First Amendment. Just our speech, and they go like, okay, yeah, First Amendment, that allows you to go out on the streets with other people too. They say like, okay, you know, you can say whatever you want to on this Facebook platform. Facebook will take that down. YouTube will take that down. But you can go out on the street and say whatever you want. And you can gather with a bunch of other people and do the same damn thing. Say what you want, and that's going to keep everything in check. That's what we're told, at least. And if it doesn't, hey, at least you got the freedom to say what you want. And you got a Second Amendment to fall back on after you say whatever your political opinion is, whatever your opinion on this matter is. So this is crazy. So I'm putting out there, and I always put this out there for a purpose when I start saying like everybody should surround the Federal Reserve Bank with guns. I've done it. You know, I don't advocate doing that right now because they're trying to pass laws against doing stuff like that. And it's already, you know, too late because we can't even get 100 people legally out on the street right now to protest this unprecedented move to take away the freedom and to trash every bit of the rules of society right now. We can't even get 100 people out on the street because they're saying you're under martial law. You can't do that. There can't be a gathering of more than 100 people. Exactly, David Edgerly. It's a good way. They're taking away any means to stand up to the bastards. That's what he said. But yeah, they're just making it, okay, how can we be put in check? Well, you know, through large-scale demonstrations. Okay. No gatherings of more than 100 people. Okay, well, what happens after this period is over? Are we going to get our right to gather back? Are they going to say, oh, well, next year around election time, which elections are fake. If you vote, you're guilty of treason, and all elected officials are guilty of treason, etc., etc. The government's already abolished. I mean, this is the evidence. I mean, I picked a pretty good time to finally get it through my thick head to stop, requiring that people rise up and abolish the government, because the government's already abolished. Basically it enforces itself by threat of armed thugs. That's really all it is. That's all they have. Nobody would go along with any of it without that. I wish the threat of force from armed thugs. I wish to point out another thing. Cliff, how many years have we been talking about that everybody who has a job out there, that it is pointless, that it doesn't need to exist, that if all these jobs disappeared, not one thing would be better or worse? How much have we discussed that, Cliff? That's been a pretty, as far as I'm concerned, that's been a pervasive viewpoint we've expressed on this program. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
In fact, I think some things might be, if certain jobs were eliminated, things might indeed get better.
Oh, I totally agree. But now we're demonstrating. We're not demonstrating. We're witnessing the fact that they can shut down entire countries like Italy. They can shut down certain jobs. I mean, this March Madness thing, CBS pays like well over like billions of dollars every year to broadcast this. So that's real money that's just like, it's gone. How does this recover? They say everybody's working from home now, or everyone who can is ordered to work from home. So what work are they going to do at home? I mean, there's some places you can't work from home. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen to productivity? I mean, productivity has plummeted to the point where it's like it's upside down. The productivity is gone. So how can the economy work? I guess what I'm saying is, how was anything legitimate in the first place? Now we know it wasn't, because we got into the Trump card of all this, which is there are quadrillions of dollars in circulation, which is thousands of times more than the combined global economy that is the, I would say, traditional economy, and that the shadow economy is thousands of times, I wouldn't say more valuable, because it's not a value thing. It's got thousands of times more money in its circulation through the derivatives market and complex leveraging and ESG quants and any other, what's the word? Arbitrage inducing vehicle for the global economy. So we already know all of this, that there's enough money in circulation to make every man, woman, and child on planet Earth a multi-millionaire. But this is proving the point. Just like when we had these large-scale government shutdowns. Remember these? Where they're like, oh no, the government's going to shut down. What does that mean? It just means a paid vacation for government workers. And life does not change at all for any of the people. So, I mean, how do you think would be the best way to investigate that, Cliff? I mean, because that is something to me that is, it's got to be addressed. You know, when you get down below the fact that they don't even have a magic wand. They just say, all right, this is happening. We don't really have any liquidity in the market, but I'll just create $1.5 trillion and put it in right now. And then the next day, I'll put in another $500 billion. Where does that come from?
I mean, that's why they have to do the Marshall, because as they try to, essentially the emperor has no clothes, and they want to keep everyone from going outside, from coalescing, saying, "Hey, man, the emperor has no clothes. We should change this." So, I mean, part of it is brilliant as far as, again, the pandemic aspect, because that's the perfect thing to use. Like, oh,
right.
You guys can't assemble because you'll get everyone sick. And so it's like the perfect sort of trick.
It's the perfect trick. It's nobody's fault. It's just a natural occurrence. So when they go like, yeah, don't pay any attention to the fact that the repo markets were going berserk, and that points to dire consequences in the global economy. Don't pay any attention to the languishing oil prices because of lack of demand. Don't pay any attention to the record level of corporate debt that cannot be paid off. Don't pay any attention to the exact correlation to the increase in the Fed's balance sheet with the increase in the New York Stock Exchange. Don't pay any attention to that. Forget all that happened and just say, oh, we didn't see this black swan / gray swan / green swan of the coronavirus coming. Everything was great before that, and now everything's horrible, so we have to bail everything out and shut it down and do a total reset and then take away all of your freedom to assemble. After we rigged elections that we may now cancel to take away all the Second Amendment rights and militia rights of the most important state in the United States government. That's Virginia, because that's where the biggest majority of the most important government agencies are. And before, several months ago, we had the, what remains of the best, of the bad militia clauses and gun statutes of any other state. Now we've got amongst the worst. So is this coincidental? We told you it wasn't coincidental when we were discussing during the General Assembly session in Virginia what Cliff just referenced, which was what were the big things that happened this General Assembly session? Slashing and denigrating Article 1, Section 13 of Virginia Constitution, which is the militia clause, and the Second Amendment, and also this huge giveaway to the Israeli Minister of Defense and the agreement and the getting together of Department of Homeland Security, the police, and the Israeli Defense Ministry, where what's on the board is buying and being trained on lethal robotics to be used against the people of Virginia. All right, I mean, is anybody there? Is anybody home? I mean, we've been saying this the whole time. Again, I say this folks, they start talking to me. Sometimes friends will give me a call and they'll start saying, I'm like, where did you hear this? Oh, I'll send you a link. Don't bother. Don't bother. I don't care what anybody. I don't need any other interpretation. I can interpret reality for myself. I'm just telling you what's happening. We're just telling you what's happening. We've even had 2 successful callers tonight that are just telling you what happened. It's as simple as the callers put it. You don't even need to know anything else. This is what's happening. Cliff, where are we gonna go? I mean, can we just start going through, I guess, headlines to verify what we've been saying? Bill Gates leaves Microsoft. Okay, so we got all the Bill Gates stuff about, forced vaccinations. We're going to get more into that as we go down through the list of stories. So that's one thing. Louisiana postpones primary as states scramble to adjust to coronavirus. Okay, so there you go. There you go. I mean, what else to say to that? This is, they're rigging elections right into the coronavirus. They're bringing it together, combining the rigged elections with the coronavirus. And I think pretty soon it's going to get to the point where in the future, there's going to be all these different pandemics. And they're going to come out and they're just going to say, okay, well, everybody votes from home. Everybody does their banking from home. Everybody gets their groceries delivered. Nobody gathers together. Nobody gets together in large groups. When is that going to be lifted? And when it's lifted, when is it going to be reinstated? There's already a precedent. All right, so we're going to keep going. All right. Bon Secours no longer accepting visitors due to coronavirus concern. That's Richmond, Virginia hospitals. I presume the same things are going on around the country. That jails and hospitals, where these institutions like Bon Secours is known in Richmond and Baltimore and many other places as Bon Sequilla, because folks check in, but they don't check out, and it's not the Hotel California. You can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's why they call it Bon Sequilla. So nobody can visit and watch over what these guys are doing. I mean, I could tell you some stories about my parents' doctors at Bon Secours and my sister's when she was a nurse in the ER at Bon Secours St. Mary's Hospital, which is the closest one to where I am right now. The doctor who was in charge, he committed suicide by walking out in traffic on Interstate 95. So, and my parents' doctor was having gay sex with his clients. So that tells you what these folks are like and what kind of individuals we're dealing with. New York Fed injects $1.5 trillion into markets as amid coronavirus chaos. The New York Fed is an international private banking cartel system. Has nothing to do with federal government. It's robbing U.S. taxpayers. Yes, we know that. Absolutely. CIA siren servers can predict social uprisings 3 to 5 days in advance. That's from sociable.com. And hey, I like the comment from Ion Drumanetscu. The ones they create? ? Of course, the ones they create. And then Sander Milton comments, DARPA and the CIA looks to predict the future real-world events with AI, the social network activities censoring the entire globe. That is correct as well. Yeah, J.D. Davis, plenty of drugs and undocumented firearms at the Baltimore Bon Secours. Like I said, Baltimore Bon Sequoia. Attorney says man who was sleeping when Maryland SWAT team opened fire on his house, killing him. That is from thetruthaboutguns.com. I read a little bit about that. They wounded his girlfriend and killed him when they opened fire on him while he was sleeping in his home. That's in the United States and in the second most important state in the world, the state of Maryland. The entire country of Norway is shutting down. TheWeek.com. The entire country is shut down. The entire country of Norway shut down. So yeah, hey, no problem. No, there's not going to be a recession. Don't worry about it. Just going to shut down the entire country. But that won't be a recession. Okay, here we go. Federal Reserve to offer $270 billion in loans to Wall Street. That's from WallStreetOnParade.com. And let's read a little bit of this article because I think this is fairly important. The little people in America will continue to wait to hear any concrete plans for their government to provide financial relief to them for business disruptions, resulting from the coronavirus. But Wall Street banks and their sprawling trading desks got word today, this is from March 11th, 2020, that the Fed's money gusher repo loans that began on September 17th of last year will offer them up to $270 billion in cold hard cash at unprecedented low interest rates tomorrow. And that would have been yesterday, the 12th. Okay, so what were we saying about unprecedented, Clifford? That folks were mocking?
I mean, it's just like the Spanish flu. They're
right.
raising the same thing like they did with the Spanish flu.
Right, and what did I bring up? What did I bring up? Right, and what did I bring up? The unprecedented actions in the repo market. So, there you go. Unprecedented. They didn't have an overnight lender back in 1918. They didn't have an overnight lending market back then. Sorry. So nice try, Michael Elliott, or whatever your name is. Okay, here we go. Trump plans to declare national emergency. Reconnect. Okay, we're back. That was strange. I'm still outside walking my dog. My neighbors are doing the same. Go ahead, Cliff.
Yeah, just one dot to connect, one esoteric dot that Trump is declaring this national emergency on Friday the 13th.
Yes.
I don't know how I missed that one.
Yes. I don't know how I missed that one either. But yes, absolutely. Friday the 13th. National Declaration of Emergency. Just like, King Philip in France going after the Knights Templar, shutting them down on Friday the 13th. Let's get a little more information on that. Philip Knights Templar.
To that, one thing I was thinking is like things we've been saying, hey, with all these school shootings, if they were really happening, you should just shut the schools down. And that's what they're doing now. Although
right.
I guess a lot of it is just being diverted to online. So I'm not sure how many schools are just all coursework is halted or how many are just switching to online interaction with the academy or academia.
Well, I know that things are going to be in chaos. in Richmond, Virginia, because I can tell you who causes a lot of the problems in the city of Richmond, and that is high school students killing each other on the streets, robbing people on the streets. I'm telling you, if you took out the high school population of the city of Richmond out of the city of Richmond, the crime rate would plummet. And now you've got all these little pea-brained psychopaths out on the streets everywhere. You call me what you want, a grumpy old man or anything, but I can tell you, everybody needs to take responsibility for their own damn children, which they never do. And I can tell you, as the generations go by, folks are getting worse and stupider. Their behavior is worse, and their intellect is downgrading as time goes by. That's what happens as time goes by. Philip IV of France and the suppression of the Knights Templar. That's where this Friday the 13th stuff stems from. We'll get that going here in a second. Suppression of Knights Templar. This is regarding Philip IV. Philip was substantially in debt to the Knights Templar, a monastic military order whose original role as protectors of Christian pilgrims in the Latin East had been largely replaced by banking and other commercial activities by the end of the 13th century. As the popularity of the Crusades had decreased, support for the military orders had waned, and Philip used a disgruntled complaint against the Knights Templar as an excuse to move against the entire organization as it existed in France. In part, to free himself from his debts. So hey, there's a lot of similarities here. At the daybreak on Friday the 13th, October 1307, hundreds of Templars in France were simultaneously arrested by agents of Philip the Fair, to be later tortured into admitting heresy in the order. The Templars were supposedly answerable only to the Pope, but Philip used his influence over Clement V, who was largely his pawn, to disband the organization. Pope Clement did attempt to hold proper trials, but Philip used the previously forced confessions to have many Templars burned at the stake before they could mount a proper defense. So again, putting out this crazy edict and order before anybody has a proper defense. And this is no offense to Philip the Fair, Philip the Fourth of the King of France, by comparing him to any decision maker in this society today. I'm outside of this society. I have my own society. It's much more closely associated with the ancient Knights Templar and the 14th century and 13th century kings of France, England, and Europe. But anyway, I'm not a part of the society that these decisions are being made under. In March 1314, Philip had Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Temple, and Geoffrey de Charnay, preceptor of Normandy, burned at the stake. And then you can take it from there. It's an interesting story from there, but I don't want to focus too much, and we've covered that before. But I just wish to point out this is very similar with the Friday the 13th activity. Very, very, very apropos. All right, let's keep going.
We pointed out the similarities between this event and 9/11, and from 9/11/2001 to today is 222 months in 2 days. So 2's been a big number this year since 2020. So again, this stuff is planned decades in advance. This military operation it's been unfolding as people, as we've been saying, as others have been saying for a while now. And it's just, again, well, like we said, we had a couple good calls today, so it's like maybe people are finally ready to, not just be spectators of their own demise, but
I mean, there's nothing really we can
I
do.
don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do. I mean, it's just you gotta wait this out and inform the public that they have just got to remove themselves from this government and society and say, like, we're doing something separate. I mean, we're going to hone in further on this idea during this election year and basically say, hey, one way to express oneself politically is to not vote and say, hey, my not voting means I don't give any confidence or any credence or any consent to this criminal operation. We just wish to have our property back, and we wish to punish all those who are guilty of treason. And this is all that we're seeing. Everyone in government and society is guilty of treason unless you remove yourself from that, because it's war on the people. That's it. That's all the society is. That's all the society does. Here's CBSNews.com. Payroll tax holiday and tax deadline extension mostly help the rich. CBSNews.com. So, like, all you folks from the, alternative media, I don't care what you have to say. I didn't need CBS News to tell me this. I know they won't do anything unless it mostly helps them and helps the masses much less. Not just the masses, everybody. President Donald Trump has proposed a number of tax measures to help shield the U.S. economy from the coronavirus, including a payroll tax holiday and a delay in the April 15th tax filing deadline. Yet neither policy is likely to boost Americans as much as the White House might hope, economists say. For one, cutting payroll tax would do nothing to help people who have been laid off or furloughed and aren't getting a paycheck. It would also bypass the elderly, a group that is vulnerable to the novel coronavirus, and most of whom don't work. Okay. So you can read further into that if you wish, but that's just another verification of what's going on here, what's happening. It's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you, and it's going to help only those who are actively waging war against you. So, there you have it. My computer's freezing up for some reason, so I don't know, Cliff. Well, I may just have to close that all up and then bring it back up again. Frustrating, but hey, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it tells me all I need to know. All this stuff. It's all what I need to know. I don't need to know anymore other than what this slow computer is telling me. And I really don't even need the computer, because I get better information just hearing the breaking news, watching the idiot box. And it's not really an idiot box, it's just watching what's happening. That's it. Just watching what's happening. Hey, Max. All right. If you want to get up here, you got to get up here, but don't. Come on. All right. So Cliff, for some reason, and I'll show y'all, Firefox is deciding to update my computer right now. We can see, where is it? It's updating the computer, so that's unfortunate. And so we're gonna. Okay, we're back. All right, Cliff. So while my computer is loading up again, what what's important out of what we just said? Do you think? What's the most important?
I mean, that, like you said, it's just sort of we kind of have to wait out, like what. I mean, that's kind of the, I don't know, frustrating is the right word. That's the sort of, I guess, anxiety-inducing thing about this sort of positioning in this warfare is that you can't really make a move until like your enemy has sort of like shown you how what gambit they're going to use with this infrastructure they set up. They just sort of like put out edicts of shutting down society. And again, like I often think that this is in part, I mean, and it's all timed out this way. And in part, hey, we were calling, hey man, shut down the public schools. You can't keep them safe from these alleged mass shooters. All the sporting is rigged. It benefits no one except the most criminal. It's just there to get gambling addicts to inject money into the system. Shut that down. Like, hey, shut down this criminal society. So they're shutting it down, but they're just trying to reboot it and then pass it off as less criminal or not as criminal. So that seems to be that's at least what I am witnessing. That they're shutting society down, trying to do it on their terms, and of course they're throwing in the bailouts. There's going to be, I believe, there's going to be an attempt to spin it as, hey, this is our chance to really get everything straight and really sort of fix society, which, I mean, that's true, but again, they're going to be selling a poison pill. They're going to, hey, we got the solution, but really, kind of like what one guy, when you were on, what is it, Revision, or the radio show you were on Wednesday or Thursday?
Revolution Radio, yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Revolution Radio on with
Revolution Radio.
Yeah, the Sentinels of Truth show with Eric Wilkinson. We'll be back on there next Wednesday as well.
Yeah, Eric Wilkinson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but someone mentioned the notion that like there would be essentially controlled opposition. Hey, we're here to stop the so-called New World Order and institute a better system, but really the system they institute is the so-called New World Order. So but if they even have to do that, because right now it just feels like they just kind of put the band hammer on, but I feel like there's always a give and take. It's always dialectic, because that's how you have to do the thesis and antithesis to get to the predetermined synthesis. So just like with the gun grab, it's going to be pulled back, but I don't know if there is going to be, and maybe there won't be any resistance to this martial law because most of it is just mundane. Because I feel like they're just going to try to phase in all this violation of everyone's rights, and then the coronavirus will just leave the news cycle, but all the new infrastructure to violate your rights will still be intact. Similar with 9/11, we really didn't get any terrorist attacks on the same level or same scale, but we had all the criminal, unconstitutional regulation put in, Patriot Act, all that stuff.
Yeah, the National Defense Authorization Act just hold on, Cliff. The NDAA just went through again while we were distracted. that, there was a military strike in Iraq by the United States government while we were distracted. So yeah, like we've been saying all along, Cliff makes the great point. What happens when the coronavirus is gone? Are these draconian martial law things implemented? Are they going to go away? It's a precedent. Is it going to get worse next time? Because folks are like, oh, yeah, the coronavirus is a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. It sucks. It's so not real. Blah blah blah. Well, they're going to test as many people as they can, and then they're going to start vaccinating folks. And the vaccines are coming from where? Israel. So it's almost like we're getting so mocked in every sort of way that everything that they said we were crazy about is coming back into fruition. It is being put out there in such an obvious manner that verifies every single last detail of every conspiracy that we recognized. Because again, it's not hidden in plain sight. It's spotlighted in plain sight. It's a conspiracy in the traditional definition of the word conspiracy. Two or more individuals plotting together to violate the rights of the people or the rights of others for their benefit. So yeah, it's a gigantic conspiracy. Everyone's involved. So, I can tell you, preppers aren't, they're not, what do they prepare? You can't prepare for anything. Unless you got millions of dollars. And okay, well, let's get to that one too. 40% of Americans don't have $400 in the bank for emergency expenses. Okay. Can't prep if you don't have more than $400 in the bank. That's what I was saying. I'm like, I went to the grocery store last week and was talking to Amanda, and she's like, do we need toilet paper? I'm like, no, we got an extra roll and a whole pack. So we got 5 rolls. And so I'm like, are we gonna have to stock up? We might have to stock up. And it's like, we can't stock up. We can't afford to stock up. Are you kidding? we go to the store 3 to 5 times a week. We don't get to stock up. We buy things as cheaply as possible. We go to the, clearance, and we buy things on clearance. That's what we do. We don't get to stock up and prep. That's a joke. Yep, U.S. launches retaliatory strike against Iranian-backed militia after rocket attack in Iraq kills 2 troops, allegedly. Can we panic now? Stocks, oil, Bitcoin, and Treasury yields plunge after Trump's coronavirus plan failed to calm investors. So Monday is going to be even more. Here's something interesting that has been getting short shrift, but I was hearing about between the coronavirus coverage. Nike is using forced Uyghur labor in China. So the ethnic minority in China, known as the Uyghurs, they're Islamic, they're Muslims, and they are being tortured and killed, and there's a mass genocide against them going on right now in China. And also Nike and Apple and all the Fortune 500 companies that use China as their production facility, they are using forced labor. I believe all labor is forced labor. Or all current labor is forced labor. All government-sanctioned labor is forced labor. Here's something from Press TV. What I've been saying from the beginning, that this was, if there is some sort of virus, all the viruses released are mutations, and they originate in military bioweapons facilities. Here's the headline. U.S. military might have brought coronavirus to China's Wuhan, says Beijing. We can get more into that. Seattle poised to order involuntary isolation, preparing for potential lockdown. France to close all schools and universities. I guess that's going to put a little bit of a monkey wrench in the plans of the quote-unquote yellow vest protest. Okay, here's another thing I want to say. CBS News shuts down office after 2 employees get coronavirus. Blah, blah, blah. Ohio prisons no longer allowing inmate visitations. Russia claims U.S. is running a secret bioweapons lab in Georgia. Iranian nation will get through this biological warfare. NBA suspends season. Coronavirus shuts down Major League Baseball. All right, so I mean there you have it. Which of those things do we want to get into, Cliff?
I mean, you could get into any one of the. I mean, my thing is it's just because it's so much, so fast, and it all seems pretty unwarranted. That's what they say. Tom Hanks has it. And,
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, Tom Hanks. Basically, he's like Epstein, and he's like Weinstein, and all those other guys. He had child sex slaves and stuff like that, and that's starting to come out. And now all of a sudden, he's a victim of the coronavirus. Sure, buddy, I believe that.
Oh, that reminds me. I saw you posted an article that the Weinstein Jewish Community Center was like under quarantine, and
Yes.
we were getting that Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison,
Yes.
allegedly and that was another thing I thought was very odd. Not the sentencing, because they have to throw some people under the bus, but the whole he was like, just because the whole Me Too thing that came out and people were making a big deal about it, and then all of a sudden he goes to trial and he's using a walker now, and it's like, what? Like, since when did this guy need a walker? Like oh, you might have to, like, you're being put on blast for like a drop in the bucket of all the creepy like violations you've done, and now you need a walker now. Has he come down with coronavirus? Oh, so who's going to be the next famous person to get coronavirus? What, Chelsea Manning's been released? I wonder if they're going to come down with coronavirus later. So they're tying in all the media elements, the media psyop elements of this, the sports, the politics. I mean, I swear, like, there's, I was looking on the App Store, the Play Store, to try to download an application. It's just, there was an ad talking about coronavirus and what you can do. It's like you can't, it's as ubiquitous as the elections, if not more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, we talked about the I don't know if we talked about it tonight, but the dirty cash. They're starting to put out in mainstream media that they want an electronic money system because the cash system is spreading the coronavirus. Here's something that I wanted to get to as well. Super rich jet off to disaster bunkers amid coronavirus outbreak. This is from theguardian.com. Let's read a little bit off of this one, if we can. All right, and then I do want to get into the Weinstein Jewish Community Center, which I used to, it used to be like literally in my backyard when I lived on Granite Avenue in Richmond, Virginia. I now live about a mile away in Henrico County, Virginia, but that's the closest place that I've heard of any outbreak or actions to be taken due to the coronavirus. That's the closest location. So to reiterate the point of this, the closest location to me that is shut down because of this coronavirus and has had actual alleged coronavirus carriers has been the Weinstein Jewish Community Center on Broad Street in Richmond, Virginia. Here, this is from theguardian.com. Super rich jet off to disaster bunkers amid coronavirus outbreak. So, Cliff, that's another thing we talk about a lot, isn't it? Disaster bunkers, underground military bases, etc. Yeah, that we do that every week for years. Self-isolate for some of the world's richest means COVID-19 tests abroad, personal medics, and subterranean hideouts. Let's keep reading. Like hundreds of thousands of people across the world, the super rich are preparing to self-isolate in the face of an escalation in the coronavirus crisis. But their plans extend far beyond stocking up on hand sanitizer and TV box sets. The world's richest people are chartering private jets to set off for holiday homes or specially prepared disaster bunkers in countries that so far appear to have avoided the worst of the COVID-19 outbreak. Many are understood to be taking personal doctors or nurses on their flights to treat them and their families in the event that they become infected. The wealthy are also besieging doctors and private clinics in Harley Street, London, and across the world, demanding private coronavirus tests. To avoid overwhelming limited testing facilities, the NHS said it would test only people with a high chance of having the illness, meaning people who had close contact with a confirmed case or who had recently gone to a high-risk country. Mark Ali, chief executive and medical director of private Harley Street Clinic, said this has led to a huge demand from very wealthy people asking if they can pay for private testing. Let's see. Ken Langon, co-founder of Home Depot chain, knew where to turn when seeking medical advice on the outbreak. The 84-year-old billionaire called an executive and top scientist at NYU Langone Health. Oh, it's got his name. The New York hospital named after him, and which he chairs. What I've been told by people who are smarter than me in the disease, as of right now, it's a bad flu, he told Bloomberg. Okay. All right, let's get to this. What Clifford was referencing, something that is close to me that I know of personally. I used to, I can tell you when I used to go weekly to meetings, and sometimes more than that, at the City Hall or at the Virginia State Capitol, and I would ride my bike there. And I would always cut through the Weinstein JCC. And I can tell you another thing, if you know all this, and you know me and how long I've been doing this, whenever I would go on the Weinstein JCC property, I would be packing heat openly. Now, I mean, I would be going the wrong way through their driveway and just on my bike avoiding people. I'm not there to cause any problem. But yeah, I was always packing on their property. I doubt that was that was legal, but and if I'm questioned for doing it, it happened 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, and I'm not even saying that it happened. I'm just saying things. But anyway, yeah, I don't go near that place anymore, and I especially don't go near there now that there could be some sort of military-created superbug there, even though I don't believe that's the case. Weinstein JCC, that's Jewish Community Center, closes due to coronavirus concerns. That's 8 News. Weinstein JCC closes Thursday after member comes in contact with the coronavirus. That's WTVR.com. Weinstein Jewish Community Center to close due to coronavirus cautions. So let's see what's we got. What's news? I'm just saying about the stuff where it used to be my backyard. This JCC, man. Like, I mean, with these fake mass shootings and everything like that, it's getting absurd. Like how everything has changed due to these fake events, due to nothing but a bunch of fake nonsense. All right. Let's see. We'll just read this. So again, this is the only place I know of around here that has closed down. Grocery stores are still open. There's a tennis club. I believe it's called West Hampton Tennis Club. It's some like ritzy tennis club in like the fancy part of the street that I live on. Like as you go farther down towards the end of the street, it becomes less fancy, and that's the part of the street that I live on. But about, I don't know, maybe a mile down the road, maybe more like 3/4 of a mile down the road, the neighborhood's fancier, and they have a tennis club, and they're still gathering in large numbers there. They haven't shut down the tennis club. Folks are still going there and playing indoor tennis and eating at the bar and using the clubhouse facilities or whatever they are in there. This is Richmond, Virginia. The Weinstein Jewish Community Center announced it will close Thursday after learning one of their members came in contact with someone who was exposed to COVID-19. A spokesperson said they learned about the contact Wednesday evening. The JCC says the decision was made in an abundance of caution as they work with health authorities to assess the situation. So again, that's not the first thing. The synagogue in New Rochelle, New York, that was the epicenter of the first martial law ordering of the National Guard to impose quarantine and restrictions that came in an almost entirely Jewish neighborhood. Is that right from your understanding, Cliff? Cliff, you still there?
That's right. From yeah, I remember. I saw that article. Yeah, from my understanding, that it was centered at it almost entirely.
So what we're talking about now it seems to be popping up, and or Jewish organizations are overwhelmingly, being hit with this. It seems suspicious, just kind of like these other things that they have their fingerprints all over, like mass shootings and 9/11. And I'm not saying the mass shootings are real, What I'm saying is that they're overwhelmingly involved. And again, I mean, I don't know what to say. I just don't know what else to say. So let's get to this New Rochelle. New Rochelle Synagogue. Yeah. Well, anyway, sorry about this delay. I'm just hearing Chris Cuomo in the background talking about how everyone's scared, his mom's scared, his family's scared, they don't know what to do. Give me a break. This stuff is garbage. All right, here's from USA Today from 2 days ago, and then we're going to close out by talking about what's going on in Florida right now, I think. Unless, Cliff, you got it. We'll close out with what Cliff wants to talk about, and I want to touch on what was the state of emergency that they just implemented in Florida. Okay, they have been remarkable how a New York synagogue is coping as an epicenter of the U.S. coronavirus spread. Okay, there you go. Like, remember what we've been saying the whole time. They're the epicenter. What are the odds? What are the odds that this group that's less than 2% of the population is at the epicenter of everything? And of course, the reporter writing this is also a Jew. Joseph Spector. Fake Jew. Synagogue of Satan member. Okay, here we go. New Rochelle, New York. Young Israel of New Rochelle had an online... There he is. Max wanted to sit up and do the broadcast with me. So now he's just kind of chilling out. Young Israel of New Rochelle had an online Purim party because its members couldn't gather at their synagogue this week. The congregants check in on one another. They get plenty of takeout food that is simply left at the door. Some make meals for one another. They check in on their neighbors and stay isolated since March 3rd. We have been model citizens. We shut down our synagogue and our entire membership after one case. We didn't wait for a cluster, said one congregant who declined to use his name for concerns of stoking dissension. Since when has one of these synagogue of Satan members ever had any sort of fear of stoking dissension? That's all they do is stoke dissension. There is also growing frustration about why they have been the focal point in New York, as well as what they view as a lack of clear answers over an edict Tuesday that put them in the middle of a 1-mile containment area. Schools, houses of worship, and other large gathering places within the containment area will need to be closed through March 25th, according to Governor Andrew Cuomo. That includes schools in New Rochelle and neighboring Tuckahoe. Overwhelmingly high percentage of synagogue of Satan, quote unquote, fake Jew population. So there we go. Cliff, we got about 7 minutes left of the show. Any final thoughts on what's going on here that we didn't necessarily cover? I think we did a good job of getting everything out there. Freezing mortgage payments. Let me get this in real quick. Yeah, freezing mortgage payments and making some people if somebody just finished paying off their mortgage and other people are having freezes in the mortgage. Now we need to know what that means, but this is again, it doesn't make sense. And that's what they're doing in certain countries now is they're putting holds on mortgage and rent payments. Go ahead, Cliff. Sorry.
Yes. so I saw this article. U.S. Labor Department allows unemployment benefits for coronavirus. So, again, more of the economic reset under the guise of like, oh, this is how we have to adapt. States can pay benefits. The U.S. Labor Department on Thursday gave states flexibility to amend their laws to provide unemployment benefits in events related to the coronavirus in an effort to limit the damage on the economy from the pandemic. This goes back to the Green Swan and how every entity has to play its role to ensure financial stability, which is essentially keeping this criminal system afloat. States can pay benefits in cases of temporary unemployment because the coronavirus is preventing employees from coming to work. Individuals quarantined with the expectation of returning to work after the quarantine is over also receive. Let me reread that. Individuals quarantined with the expectation of returning to work after the quarantine is over can also receive unemployment benefits, as well as those leaving employment due to risk of exposure or infection or to care for family members. So this goes back to the whole socialism psyop and all that sort of stuff. So again, like leverage what you can with the way they're trying to redo the system, but know that at the end of the day, it's to decrease your freedoms and to increase the security of the most criminals.
Absolutely. This is not going to help anyone. I mean, and also, why are we paying for people to do nothing? You know, I mean, it's the corporations. Why don't they pay their employees? Why does the entire population have to pay? I call BS on that. This is worldwide communism. I mean, if you really want to look into like what's going on with this worldwide, synagogue of Satan, political communism, socialism, that's what this is. It's everybody's problem what a few entities are going on. And how are they introducing this? Like, they're not closing down the tennis club in my neighborhood. These rich people, they want to play tennis, man. They don't want to mess around with that stuff. Only the Jews, only the synagogue of Satan, they're the only ones that are really like going along with this. Let's see, Florida news, because I want to talk about Florida, because that's another heavy population of okay, Florida coronavirus update, closing all schools in the state. All schools in the state. Let's see. Oh, wow. Andrew Gillum found in Miami hotel room with suspected drugs. Didn't know that. An inebriated Gillum found with suspected overdose victim. Wow. Coronavirus in Florida. State announces all schools will close. All schools will close. So there are a lot of garbage, trash, crazy individuals in Florida, and just think that their children are even worse, and now they're going to be out of their asylum, and everyone down there is going to have to deal with it. So good luck, everyone. This is the societal collapse we told you. And by the way, they didn't call it self-quarantining, but I do my best to maintain social distance, and I've been practicing for years. So no problem for me. I talk about this on the show often. If I'm walking down the street, I'll say hello to people if they seem like they wish to be addressed. But if I see somebody walking down the street and our paths might cross, I'll look out for them and walk to the other side. I avoid contact with almost everybody as much as I possibly can. So
90 seconds.
I mean, not much of a lifestyle change for me with this. but I don't know how the rest of the folks are going to be able to handle this. We got 90 seconds to go. Cliff, any final thoughts?
I mean, there's really nothing else to say. Peace, much love. Keep searching for truth. Stay safe. I guess wash your hands, but more importantly, try to avoid getting harassed by government agents these days because they're using this as a pretext to do whatever they wish.
Yeah, this is the martial law. This is the hard ass martial law where all of our rights, especially the most important ones, the right to assemble, it's been taken away. So yeah, I mean, wash your hands, and I mean you should do that during every flu season, anyways. But yeah, you'll be all right from the coronavirus, but you might not be all right from what the coronavirus is a pretext for, which is martial law, UN Agenda 21, continuity of operations, and the complete reset of the 100% failed usury-based economy. All right, this is Chris Dorsey signing off. Join us Wednesday night here at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on Revolution Radio, and I'm going to be debating this guy I was have been on with last week, named Robbie from the UK. The plan for the debate is it's something I've already proved. I don't need to debate. I'm just going to state facts. I didn't come up with these facts. I didn't make them. That the Israelites were, for lack of a better term, white or ruddy. That they were ruddy individuals, aka white, and didn't have anything to do with being any darker than that. And again, it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just what the facts are, and he's going to take the other side of that argument. He's runs the Black Hebrew Israelite movement in the UK. So that's going to be Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio on the program called Sentinels of Truth, hosted by Eric Wilkinson. So thank you very much, and join us Wednesday night, and then join us next Friday, and every time in between something important happens, just pay attention right here. We'll keep you informed, and it's your choice to do whatever you want, but I'm not going to pay any attention to anything else except for primary source material and my own opinion. So I pray that all of you are able to do the same. Thanks for joining us. This is Chris Dorsey signing off. Peace and God bless.